Welcome back to the Off the Ball podcast. I'm your host, Clay Tillman, and on today's episode, we are going to be breaking down the Giants vs. Steelers game from Monday night. Also, since it's Wednesday, every Wednesday from now on, I really want to throw in some NBA. So today we're going to be talking about the Mavericks vs. Timberwolves game, which is a rematch from last year of the Western Conference Finals. So I really want to talk about that. But before we hop into the NBA, let's start off with the Monday night game against Giants and Steelers. Steelers win 26-18. It honestly wasn't a easy win for the Steelers. It was very neck and neck through the first half. It was really just a field goal battle, but Steelers really topped it off and really shook off the Giants defense in the second half. And I really want to start with the Giants and just go through the box score, because really there's not much to talk about with the Giants box score wise. The only notable and I guess I could say exciting stat from the Giants box score is their rookie running back, Tyrone Tracy Jr. He had 20 carries, 145 yards, and 1 touchdown. And that's it. We didn't see much from Daniel Jones Monday night. We didn't see much from their wide receiver core. It was offensively just Tyrone Tracy Jr. They had big offensive plays, but it really just led to a lot of field goals from the Giants and turnovers from the Giants as well, which really hurt them offensively. But like I said, through the first half, it was neck and neck. It was a field goal battle. But now, since the Giants are now 2-6 heading into week 9, there's a lot of it's very problematic for them. Very problematic. It could be a coaching problem with Dable and the GM, or it could be a Daniel Jones problem, which I'm leaning more towards it being a Daniel Jones problem. They paid him a bag, and he really, in my opinion, didn't deserve it. He really hasn't done much for this team. When Saquon was in New York, he was really their captain. He helped them. He carried them to each and every win almost. And this season, it's led by Daniel Jones, and to be honest, I don't think Daniel Jones is the right guy for a starting role, in my opinion. You have Malik Neighbors now, and for someone like Malik Neighbors, who I think will be fantastic in this league, I think in the future he'll be a top 5 wide receiver for multiple seasons, and he's an all-out talent. But the quarterback like Daniel Jones, man, you need to get someone better. You need someone that will fit well with a guy like Neighbors. And I believe I said this in Monday's podcast, but you need somebody to fit well with Neighbors. You can go get Shedeur Sanders. You can go get Cam Ward. You can get Quinn Ewers. But in this offseason, I really think they're going to be focusing on getting a new quarterback for their team. They already fixed their wide receiver core. Malik Neighbors is going to be their wide receiver 1. Their defense is pretty good. Dexter Lawrence, the leader in sacks in the NFL. But overall, man, the piece they're missing is just the quarterback position. And Daniel Jones is not the answer. I don't know who thought that would be a smart decision to pay him all that money, but they really need to move on from him because he has not been successful whatsoever. And it really shows. The past 2 seasons, they've lost 6 games in their first 8. And it's looking very consistent from them. They really haven't been a strong suit for a playoff team. I mean, they made the playoffs a few years ago, but they really haven't been like an all-out big talk of a team. They really haven't. And when they did make the playoffs, they didn't make a heavy or big run. And nobody thought they would. And a lot of that, like I've said multiple times, is probably the quarterback position. So they need to go out and get a good quarterback who is going to be in the draft next year. And like I said, you got Cam Ward from Miami. You got Quinn Ewers from Texas, Shedeur Sanders. We'll see who else comes up big in the draft in this offseason. But I think that's who they're wanting and that they're going to aim for in the offseason. And especially in the next 2 weeks, they got Washington, their next game, and they play Carolina. Washington just came off a huge win off a Hail Mary, and they're looking very sharp so far through week 9. Jaden Daniels, in my opinion, will win Rookie of the Year. They got Terry McLaurin as wide receiver 1. They got a good defense, good offensive line, and Jaden Daniels continues to prove himself to be a future MVP in this league. But if they can't get past Washington, especially if they can't get past Carolina, who's been struggling this season, really debating on if they should get a new quarterback. We'll have to see. But if the Giants can't pounce or cannot do anything well against these two teams, especially Carolina, I don't think they'll beat Washington, but especially against Carolina, yes, they're going to be kind of in a deep hole, I would say, for the remainder of the season. They'd be out of contention for the playoffs. I think they're pretty much already out of contention. Starting 2-6 is not good. It's almost, as of right now, you're going to have to win out. And because you're in a tight division. Eagles, Cowboys, obviously Commanders leading the division. Yes, you're in a tight division. So right now, Giants are pretty much out of contention. It'll be very difficult for them to even bounce back if that's even remotely possible, which I think it's not, because they will most likely have to win out from now and until week 17. But like I said, it's most likely a quarterback problem. It could be a coaching problem. And Coach Dable, I don't think he's a terrible coach. Their GM, they just got Neighbors. So entirely, I don't think it's a coaching problem or staff problem. 100%, it could be a little bit of it. But in my opinion, a lot of it has to do with Daniel Jones and how insufficient and how he's just dragging this team further and further down in a hole. So in my opinion, yes, they're going to be looking for a new quarterback in the offseason. And yes, I hope they become a potential threat in the NFC. I like the Giants now. I like Dexter Lawrence. I'm loving Neighbors. Tyrone Tracy Jr. I hope he gets more playing time in the near future. He looked very, very sharp in Monday's game. But I feel like once they get a good quarterback, they're going to be on a rise. And this NFC South team could be very scary in the near future. And it could be entirely different. Commanders already looking like they're going to be a powerhouse of a team for the next 5 years and possibly more. But, man, if Giants go get a steady quarterback that they can rely on, then yes, Giants could be a legitimate threat in the NFC South. But right now, no, they're a joke, and they need to move on from Daniel Jones. And from Monday night, some mistakes that the Giants made. It overall is a lot of offense. I can pull up the box score right now. Daniel Jones threw for 264 yards. He had 1 interception. It's just they fumbled a lot. They made too many turnovers. Darius Slayton had a good game, 4 receptions for 108 yards. Neighbors had 7 receptions for 71 yards. So it was a explosive game offensively, but they couldn't get anything done, and a lot of that came from the turnovers. But it was just no conversions. Daniel Jones threw a game-ending interception. And throughout the whole game, they had 4 major illegal shifts and illegal formation penalties, which hurt them as well. And that was in the first quarter, mainly in the first half. And then overall, they were flagged 6 times in the first 2 offensive possessions. So a lot of messiness was going on in New York side. And like I said, too many turnovers. So Brian Dable is really going to have to reshape them and really clean up this sloppiness from the Giants, which really, really hurt them against a Steelers team who's good defensively. And Wilson starting 2-0. They're looking good offensively with George Pickens, Austin the third, Najee Harris. Yes, they're a really good team. They're looking really good. They're now 6-2. So they play the Commanders next week, so we'll see how that goes. I do think Commanders will win that game, but who knows? Bears almost beat them this week. Commanders won by Hail Mary. But let's move on to the Steelers. And Russell Wilson starting 2-0 as their future starter as a Steeler. Had 8 incompletions the whole game. Whole game was 20 for 28, 278 yards and 1 touchdown. And then Calvin Austin III had a good game. He had 3 receptions for 54 yards and 1 touchdown. And then he also had a 73-yard punt return, which is beautiful and really fun to watch. That was awesome. But this has been a momentum builder, I would say. After this win, it is a momentum builder for the Steelers. After Monday's game, they're heading into a bye week. And they play, after the bye week, they do play the Commanders. So that will be a very interesting game and fun game to watch in week 10. But overall, a solid offensive game for them. Again, Russell Wilson is making dime passes through the air that are very accurate. Many back shoulders still. I called them lob passes, but that could be a negative connotation, I guess. But it was some fantastic passes from Russell Wilson to George Pickens and one of the touchdown passes to Calvin Austin III. Overall, very, very good. Through the air and not much on his feet. I mean, we saw it from Justin Fields. He was able to guide them on the run game, was very shifty, would get out of the pocket. But Russell Wilson isn't that type of guy anymore. He's older. He's on the older end. He's more elusive through the air and accurate and is able to drop passes beautifully to his wide receivers. So, again, his second game starting, solid through the air. Solid through the air. And I'm loving it. We really didn't see this from Russell Wilson in Denver. And now since he's, in my opinion, he's on a better coaching staff. He's with a better wide receiver core, a better defense. I mean, the Broncos have a good defense. They had Cortland Sutton, they had Jerry Jeudy, but Russell Wilson. It just looks like he's in a better environment here in Pittsburgh. I think he's better with Mike Tomlin, a better running back deal with Najee Harris. It's just a better, more efficient, solid offense that's really helping them win. Even Justin Fields is able to do it. So if you're seeing Justin Fields able to thrive, man, it's because you have a good coaching staff. You have good receivers. I mean, George Pickens, he's their top receiver. He's excellent. And then you put old Russell Wilson in, and by old, I'm not condemning him. I'm not shoving him down or putting him down. Russell Wilson's on the older end. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is as well. They can't stay in their prime forever. They're in their older stages of their career. So since he is in his older stages of his career, yes, he's not going to be as athletic. So driving it through the air and having reliable wide receivers, like I said, George Pickens, and having a very, very reliable running back like Najee Harris, they're going to perform well. And then Mike Tomlin, who's an excellent coach, yes, they're going to perform well. And they're going to be a wild card team, in my opinion. And they could make a possible run. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team, but don't be surprised if they potentially make the division round, which I think they really, really could this season. But yeah, defensively wise, TJ Watt had a fantastic game. He had a fumble recovery, also 2 pairs of sacks. He's right now leading the NFL in votes for or odds for Defensive Player of the Year. He's fantastic. He's not having the best sack season, even though he's at, I think, 6.5 sacks now after Monday's game. But he isn't having the best sack season, but his pressure, a fumble recovery, and he's just an excellent, if not the best, edge rusher or quarterback pressure defensive player in the league today. So they're great on both sides of the field, and they're going to be a good and one of the best wild card teams in the NFC, in my opinion. I mean, not in NFC, AFC, in my opinion. And it was a complete performance from Pittsburgh, even from the special teams as well. Chris Boswell accounted for all their points in the first quarter. He was very reliable. He gave them those field goal kicks, and it pretty much was all field goal kicks almost through the first half. It was 9-9 at one point. So a lot of special teams from both teams on Monday. But yeah, Najee Harris, 19 carries, 114 yards. Great game, and a good defense with TJ Watt with both those sacks. So overall solid and complete performance from the Steelers and what Russell Wilson and Mike Tomlin is doing over there. And now I really want to move on to the NBA. Let's talk about the Mavericks versus Timberwolves. So Mavericks win in a rematch of the Western Conference Finals, 120-114. This could potentially be another. They could meet again in the Western Conference Finals or the playoffs. They really could. These are two teams who are excellent. They, in my opinion, they are NBA Final ready. They have a good defense, or the Timberwolves do have a good defense, and Rudy Gobert. You bring in Julius Randle, who's a better rebounder than who Cat is. Anthony Edwards is really building on his 3-point game. You bring in Dante DiVincenzo, which can spread the floor more. And you have Mike Conley, who's a veteran. And then on the Mavericks side, you bring in Luka Doncic, who, in my opinion, will win MVP this season. You have Derek Lively, who has been an excellent fan favorite center, bringing Klay Thompson, who can spread the floor, who can get those 3-pointers. And then you have Kyrie Irving, who is a veteran, shifty, athletic, can get to the rim easily, can shoot from far, can do everything. He's a fantastic player, especially for this Mavericks team, who really relies on scoring. And yeah, ultimately they rely on scoring. But I really want to just hit on the box score. Kyrie Irving was the name of the game. He brought the game on yesterday, on Tuesday. He had 35 points with 5 assists, was just playing excellent, shooting threes, driving, doing everything on the court. Luka Doncic, 24 points, 8 assists, 8 rebounds. What don't we see from Luka Doncic? Came into the league and just started it dominating. And he's doing it again. Made his first NBA Finals appearance last year against the Celtics. And we're going to see a lot from him again in the Mavericks. They're going to make the finals again. They could do it this year. The Western Conference is so competitive. So competitive. Grizzlies are healthy. Suns are healthy. OKC is riding. They're also a high pick to win the NBA Finals. So it's really going to be a fun postseason. I know the NBA just started, but I'm excited for the remainder of the season. And then you bring in Klay Thompson, who has playoff experience, has finals experience, has won rings, and who's an excellent shooter, spot-up shooter, and is going to be – it's interesting. I'm going to get into it in a second. but it almost seems like Klay Thompson, it almost seems like he doesn't really fit. I'm going to talk about it more in a second. I'm just going to say it really doesn't seem like he fits in Dallas, and I'll get to that in a second. But Anthony Edwards had a heck of a game, 37 points, 6 rebounds, unbelievable performance from him. He's just so athletic. He can dunk. He can fly high. He can block your shot. He can shoot now. His 3-point percentage has risen. And he's just an unbelievable player, and he's going to be a future. He's already a star, but he's going to be a potential future MVP, the face of the league. Obviously, the face of this Timberwolves team is really going to be the star for many, many years to come in the whole NBA. And then Julius Randle, 20 points, 7 assists, 7 rebounds. I believe Cat getting traded to the Knicks and then them getting Julius Randle, who's probably the biggest notable player for the Timberwolves now, and then Dante DiVincenzo, who's a good player off the bench. But talking Julius Randle, yes, Julius Randle is a star. Did very well in New York for the Knicks, was a heavy scorer, was a good rebounder. You bring him over to the Timberwolves, and it's almost like, yes, it's a Twin Towers 2.0. You have a better rebounder in Julius Randle than who Cat was, and you're just relying more on Julius Randle being the scorer he type of is. I mean, I know he's not the biggest 3-point shooter. He's not like Cat, but he's going to get points for you. He's a good scorer. I think he was a great pickup for them, and I think it was a fair trade, and I think both teams won in that trade overall. But yes, Julius Randle had a good game, 20 points, 7 assists, and 7 rebounds. And then we can just talk commentary and then some takeaways from last night. Kyrie Irving, again, 16 of his 35 points came in the third quarter. Like, again, he just dominates each and every quarter. He's a scary person on the court. Scary person. You do not know what he's going to do. Shoot, drive. He's almost invincible. He's going to get to the bucket no matter what. He's not like Ja Morant, where Ja Morant can get to the bucket, but then have some crazy hang time in the air, which allows for him to get a bucket over a tall defender. But Kyrie Irving is quick and can just trade hands mid-air to score. And he can shoot wherever. And Ant, on the other hand, scored 24 of his 37 points in the first quarter. He set a target center record. He shot 7 from 13 from the 3, but one thing that he struggled with in last night's game was his free throws. He shot 50%, was 6 for 12 from the free throw line. And that's what kind of hurt them. That's really what hurt them, was that and their turnovers. They had 20 turnovers last night, which led to 25 points from the Mavericks. And it was a lot of sloppy ball, and that's really what hurt them. There's free throws missed, and 20 turnovers. It's crazy. It was crazy. But Doncic, on the other hand, hit a 33-footer with a minute left to go. This was a tight game. And if we see them in the playoffs, this could go to a Game 7. Don't be surprised. These two teams are very, very competitive, and they're very heavy on offense. Mavericks are the Timberwolves are a better defensive team in Rudy Gobert being their top tier defender, but Mavericks are really heavy on that offense. And Rudy Gobert really didn't play good defensively last night. Had 0 blocks and 0 steals. So they're able to play around Rudy Gobert because they're able to spread the floor more and shoot from 3, which they did last night. But overall, Doncic, again, he's kind of been in a mini slump, had 15 points against the Jazz before they played the Timberwolves. They played good defensively, like I said. They had 12 steals. And Kyrie was 6 for 8 from the three. So overall, a good offensive game from the Mavericks. And on the Timberwolves side, it was a good first quarter. Like I said, Ant had 27 points in the first quarter. They had some sloppy stretches, which led to all those turnovers. But Edwards broke a record, has made 5+ 3-pointers in the last 4 games, which is the longest streak in team history. So obviously Ant is going to be that guy. He's already stretching the floor for them, and I think he's realized this. He needs to stretch the floor more because Cat's gone. Cat was your guy to stretch the floor. For having a guy who plays power forward, who's able to shoot, it's like the Denver Nuggets. You have Nikola Jokic, who's able to spread their floor because he's able to shoot threes. Now that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's gone, they're going to have to rely on that more, shooting threes and stretching the floor out. Same with the 76ers. Joel Embiid can shoot threes. He's a center. So spreading the floor out, now you got to account for, yes, Paul George is going to be their 3 guy, and then Tyrese Maxey can already do it. But having a center, having 2 guys in the paint who are able to shoot from the arc is very valuable for your team. A lot of people need to realize this. It's very, very valuable for a team. 3-point shooting is very key in the NBA today, in this generation, in this era. 3-point shooting changed the game heavily changed the game. That's why we see centers stretching the floor. That's why we see a guy named Karl Anthony Towns able to shoot threes. In the 90s, you wouldn't see Chuck do it. You wouldn't see Sean Kemp do it. You wouldn't see Dennis Rodman couldn't shoot, but you wouldn't see big men do it. You just wouldn't. You wouldn't at all until Steph Curry comes around and changes the generation of basketball where big men and overall players stretch the floor to get 3-pointers because that is the name of the game in this era. So Edwards is realizing that, man, Cat's gone. I'm going to have to step up to be the 3-point shooter this Timberwolves team needs. You have DiVincenzo off the bench that can do it. You also have Naz Reid. But for the starting role, Ant is their guy, their captain, their star. He has to work on his 3-point shooting, and he has done that and shown that, which is going to help them big time throughout the regular season, especially in the postseason. But that's it for today. Hope you all enjoyed the podcast. If you did, make sure to follow all my socials, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Off the Ball Podcasts with Clay Tillman is the address to them. Also, continue to share the podcast. I love y'all's support and love. So I thank y'all, and I'll see you next time on the Off the Ball Podcast. Have a good day.